All right, so Australia's calling your name, huh? Studying abroad is such a thrilling adventure, but let's be real for a sec. Those visa delays, total
Yeah,
buzzkill.
yeah, it's true.
That's why we're here to kind of help you navigate this whole visa thing. We're doing a deep dive into the world of Australian student visas. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel, I don't know, a lot more prepared and maybe even a little less stressed.
Yeah, Australia is a dream for a lot of students, but the visa system, it can feel like, while a bit of a puzzle, it's more than just getting that stamp in your passport. It's a whole process, a lot of moving parts, and it can really impact your study plans.
Absolutely, and we've got a ton of research here.
Yeah.
Articles, data from the Department of Home Affairs,
Uh-huh.
and they're all saying those processing times, major pain point for students.
Yeah, big time.
So let's break it all down, starting with the basics.
Huh.
We're talking about the Australian student visa, specifically subclass 500. This is the one you'll need if you're planning to study full-time at a, recognized Aussie institution.
Right. And here's where it gets interesting. The processing time for this visa. It's not a fixed number. It can really vary. Depends on a few things.
Oh.
Like the type of course you're applying for can actually, believe it or not, influence how quickly your application is processed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For instance, healthcare courses, especially nursing, tend to have a faster turnaround. Seems like Australia is really focused on attracting qualified nurses. They want to address their healthcare needs.
Makes sense. Faster track those applications, get those nurses in there.
Exactly.
Another thing to think about, I guess, is your country of origin, right?
Right.
Processing times can differ for applicants from different countries.
Uh-huh.
So it's worth checking the average wait times for, your specific region.
For sure. And of course, how good your application is plays a huge role. Missing documents, inconsistencies, or incomplete info, these are the things that can really, clog up the system,
Yeah.
lead to those significant delays. Think of it this way. A well-organized, complete application, like a VIP pass, just gets you through the visa process.
Ooh, I like that. A VIP pass.
Yeah.
Way better than being stuck in line.
Yeah.
Speaking of delays, though, the data we've got here, well, it paints a pretty clear picture. Things have definitely slowed down.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Department of Home Affairs reports that average processing times have jumped from around 40 days to a whopping 60 days in just a year.
Yeah, and that's just the average. Imagine waiting even longer,
Yeah.
Missing deadlines, having your academic plans totally thrown off. It's a lot of stress for students.
Absolutely. And it's not just the paperwork, it's the waiting, the not knowing.
Right.
So let's dig into why these delays are happening. Our research points to, well, a few factors. A perfect storm, you could say, a one major driver, just the increase in demand. Australia is a popular destination for international students, especially from countries with growing economies like India and Brazil.
Yeah. More applications mean a heavier workload for the system.
And then we've got those policy changes, right?
Yeah.
Every time there's a new adjustment to visa requirements, it seems like it throws a wrench in the works.
It does. It leads to confusion, backlogs, both for applicants who are trying to figure out the new rules and for the processing centers that are trying to implement them.
And then on top of that, we've got the documentation errors. This is a big one. Almost 30% of applications are delayed because of, get this, missing paperwork.
Yeah, that's a lot. Really highlights how important it is to be super careful when you're putting your application together. The Department of Home Affairs has very specific guidelines. Even a tiny little oversight can really set you back.
It's like the old saying, measure twice, cut once. Except in this case, it's check your documents a dozen times before hitting submit.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about COVID, right? And
Oh, right.
even though things are opening up, we're still seeing the ripple effects. Travel restrictions, staffing shortages at consulates, systems that are still adjusting.
The pandemic really forced a rapid shift in the way visa applications are processed. And, well, there have been adjustments, but the system is still trying to catch up.
So knowing all of this, what can you, the listener, do to kind of take charge of your application and navigate this whole tricky process? What's step one to, getting that VIP pass?
Plan ahead. And I mean, way ahead.
Like how far in advance are we talking?
Start the process at least 3 months, if not more, before you want to start studying. This gives you time to gather all your documents, deal with any unexpected hiccups, and account for those potential processing delays.
More time equals less stress. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Become a documentation ninja.
Love that analogy.
Seriously. Those Department of Home Affairs guidelines, they're your Bible. A complete error-free application is your best bet for a smooth ride through the visa system.
It really is. Think of it as an investment in your peace of mind.
And don't forget to stay informed.
Yes.
The Department of Home Affairs website and your university's website, those are your best friends. Check them regularly for any updates on processing times or policy changes.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to visas.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed, remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are professionals who can help. A migration agent or an educational consultant can be like a lifesaver. They know this stuff inside and out and can guide you through the whole process.
It's like having a Sherpa to guide you through the visa mountains.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of the Australian student visa, the reasons behind those annoying delays, and some steps you can take to stay ahead of the game. But here's where things get really interesting. These delays, they don't just affect the student, they have a wider impact.
It's true. The effects ripple outwards, impacting institutions, even Australia's reputation as a place to study.
So let's unpack that a bit. First up, the impact on students' academic journeys.
Well, these delays can just completely mess up your plans. Imagine missing enrollment deadlines because your visa is stuck being processed. It can delay your entire academic trajectory, your graduation. It can even impact your career goals.
And then there's the potential damage to the reputation of Australian institutions.
If Australia gets a reputation for long visa processing times, it might discourage students from applying. And that could affect not just enrollment numbers, but also the diversity of the student body. And that's something Australian universities value.
It's about having a system that's welcoming and efficient.
Absolutely.
And we can't overlook the mental health aspect, the stress of waiting, the uncertainty. It can be overwhelming.
Absolutely. Anxiety, frustration, even a sense of helplessness. Those are common experiences for students in this situation.
It's important to acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
The emotional impact.
Oh, yeah. And to provide support systems to help students cope.
So institutions have a responsibility to support their international students throughout this whole process, not just when they're applying.
For sure.
So let's talk about how institutions are stepping up, how they're helping students navigate this whole thing.
Well, clear and consistent communication is huge. Proactively providing updates on visa processing, sharing resources on documentation, offering guidance on how to manage those delays.
It's about keeping students in the loop,
Absolutely.
reducing anxiety, building trust. And what about other forms of support? What are we seeing there?
Well, a lot of institutions are offering counseling services, stress management workshops, peer support groups, things specifically designed for international students dealing with visa challenges.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not just about reacting after the fact. Institutions are also becoming more proactive in advocating for their students.
Good.
We're seeing them actively engaging with government bodies, pushing for faster processing times. They're making the case for how much value international students bring to Australia, economically, culturally.
It's a collaborative effort, right, to create a better system for everyone.
It is.
So we've talked about a lot here. What does it all mean for you, the listener, as you're getting ready for your big Australian adventure?
Delays are a reality, but knowledge is power. Plan ahead, pay attention to those documents, stay informed. Those are crucial steps.
You're not alone in this, right?
Yeah.
There are resources available. Educational consultants, support services offered by your university. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Exactly.
And as we said before, the Department of Home Affairs website, it's your best friend. Double check everything. Don't rely on outdated advice or, what you heard from someone's cousin's friend.
Right. Stay informed.
And don't hesitate to contact them directly if you have any questions.
Yeah. They're there to help.
And connect with other students. Share your experiences. Support each other. You're not alone in this.
A good support system can make all the difference.
And lastly, this might sound cheesy, but stay positive.
Oh, I agree.
Focus on your goals, stay organized, and trust the process. It might take a while, but Australia is waiting for you.
It is. All that sunshine, the beaches, the education, it's worth it.
So that's the groundwork. But there's more to explore. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into some potential solutions for these visa delays. We'll brainstorm ways to make the system better for everyone.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Australian student visa delays.
It's been really interesting unpacking this whole issue.
Yeah, it has.
And now we're kind of shifting gears a bit.
Yeah, we're gonna brainstorm some potential solutions.
Because, a streamlined, efficient visa system, that benefits everyone, right? Students, institutions, Australia.
Exactly.
So where do we start? I mean, technology seems to be a big theme in all this research.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, it makes sense, right? Why not use tech to speed things up?
Exactly. Our sources suggest that, well, investing in some really good online platforms could really cut down those processing times. Imagine, like, you can upload all your documents securely, track your application in real time, communicate with everyone online.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It would be a game changer.
Yeah, it would.
Eliminate so much paperwork back and forth.
Yeah. And while we're talking about tech, what about like AI, machine learning
Yeah.
to help like pre-screen applications?
Oh, absolutely. AI could be trained to, flag potential issues, missing documents right from the start, save everyone a ton of time and hassle.
It's like having a virtual assistant.
Exactly.
Just checking everything, making sure you're good to go.
Making sure you're on track.
But technology isn't everything, right?
Yeah.
What about just having more people, more staff at those processing centers?
Oh, yeah, especially after the pandemic, making sure there are enough trained professionals to handle the workload.
And maybe empowering those consular staff to make more decisions, locally, so you don't have to escalate every little thing.
Right, like decentralize the decision making.
Yeah, make it more
They're
responsible.
agile.
Another idea that came up in the research was streamlining communication between like the universities and the Department of Home Affairs.
Oh, that's a good one. If universities could collaborate more effectively with the government, flag potential problems early on before they even reach the processing stage.
It's like having a heads up,
Yeah, a heads up.
and then everyone has a chance to fix things before it becomes a big deal.
And speaking of collaboration, what about like working with other countries to make things easier for students from specific regions?
Oh, that's interesting. So like if you have a lot of students from, say, India, you could have a dedicated processing center just for them.
Exactly.
Tailor solutions to their needs.
To specific needs based on, data trends.
Thinking outside the box.
Absolutely.
But sometimes, even with the best tech, the best communication, you just got to, like, rethink the rules of the game, right? Go back to the drawing board.
Right. Policy reform. Our sources suggest that, well, maybe some of the visa requirements could be revisited.
Yeah, like, do we really need all of these?
Yeah.
Could some be, like, simplified or even eliminated
Exactly.
without obviously compromising the system?
Right. Finding that balance.
And while we're talking about policy, we got to talk about clarity. Remember that 30% of applications with missing paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like clearer guidelines would help a lot.
Absolutely. Clear, concise guidelines translated into different languages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everyone speaks English as their first language.
It's about making it accessible for everyone.
For everyone, exactly.
But even with all of that, sometimes things still go wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
That's where advocacy comes in.
Absolutely. Students, institutions, industry bodies, they can all play a role in making things better.
Like a united front, making sure the students' voices are heard.
Raising awareness, highlighting how important international education is to Australia,
Yeah.
pushing for reforms that benefit everyone.
So we've explored a lot of potential solutions here. Technology, policy, advocacy.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you, the listener, are the one who's going through this whole process.
right.
So what advice would you give to someone who's like feeling overwhelmed by it all?
Don't panic. It's easy to get stressed, but there's help out there. Reach out to your university, talk to a migration agent. They can guide you.
That Department of Home Affairs website, it's your best friend.
Seriously.
Double check everything and don't be afraid to contact them directly if you're not sure about something.
They're there to help.
And connect with other students, Share your experiences. Build a support network.
It can make the whole thing a lot less daunting.
And lastly, stay positive. Focus on your goals, stay organized, and trust the process. It might take time, but you'll get there.
Australia's waiting.
So in this part of our deep dive, we've really tackled this whole visa delay challenge head on. We've explored some solutions, offered some advice, and hopefully, inspired some optimism.
We have.
But our journey's not over yet.
Oh, no.
There's one more piece of the puzzle.
We've got to look to the future.
What's next for Australian student visas? What trends are emerging? What changes are on the horizon?
That's what we'll be diving into in part 3.
So stay tuned. Okay, welcome back to the deep dive. We spent the last 2 parts kind of digging into the nitty-gritty of Australian student visa delays.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time to, put on our futurist hats, look into the crystal ball, and see what's next for international students who want to study down under.
Predicting the future is always, well, a bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
But in a field like international education, which is so dynamic, it's really fascinating to try and, see what trends are coming.
Totally. So what's on the horizon? What big changes are coming that might affect, the Australian student visa system in the years to come.
Well, one thing we can't ignore is the focus on digitalization.
Right.
We talked about how tech can streamline the process, but that's really just the beginning.
I could see that. I mean, everything's moving online these days, so it makes sense that the visa system would too, right?
Right. We can expect to see more sophisticated online platforms, AI, machine learning, and more data-driven decisions.
So instead of mountains of paperwork and, like, endless waiting, we might have a future where the whole process is faster, more transparent, and a lot more user-friendly.
Exactly. And along with that digital transformation, we're also seeing a trend toward personalization.
Okay.
It's not just about fitting everyone into the same box anymore. It's about creating like custom pathways for each student.
That's interesting. So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, the system recognizes that students have different needs, different backgrounds, different goals.
Exactly. Imagine a system that takes all of that into account and tailors the visa process to each individual. It's a more flexible and responsive system.
It's like, hey, we get that you're different, and we're
Yeah.
going to make this work for you.
Right. And that personalized approach could also apply to the support students get once they arrive in Australia.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about getting the visa. It's about making sure you, like, thrive once you're there. What kind of support are we talking about?
Well, things like career counseling that's, tailored to your field, networking opportunities to connect you with people in your industry, mental health support, help with finding accommodation.
It's like a concierge service for your study abroad experience.
Exactly. And we can't forget about another big trend, sustainability.
Oh, right. Sustainability. That's everywhere these days. But what does that look like in the context of, like, the visa system?
Well, practically speaking, it means more eco-friendly initiatives, things like less paper, encouraging sustainable travel, and even promoting eco-conscious living for students once they're in Australia.
Makes sense. But it's not just about the environment, right?
Right. There's also social and economic sustainability, making sure that international education benefits both students and the Australian community.
So how does the visa system fit into that?
Well, it could mean, for example, making it easier for students who are studying things that Australia needs, creating pathways for them to work in Australia after they graduate, and fostering those cultural exchange programs.
So it's about recognizing that international students can contribute to Australian society long term.
Absolutely. And all of that is connected to another shift we're seeing, student-centric policies.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
What does it mean to have a, like, student-centric approach to the visa system?
It means recognizing that students aren't just, passive recipients of education. They should have a say in their experience.
So students might have more opportunities to give feedback, raise concerns, be part of the decision-making process.
Exactly. And we might see policies that give students more flexibility, better access to resources, things like that.
So it's a shift from, like, a top-down approach to one that really values the student's perspective.
Exactly. And this student-centric focus goes hand in hand with the emphasis on employability.
Right. It's not just about the degree anymore. It's about getting the skills and experience you need to get a good job.
Right. We might see more pathways to post-study work visas, more collaboration between universities and businesses, and even initiatives that help connect students with potential employers.
So studying abroad is an investment, and the visa system can help you get the most out of that investment.
That's the idea.
Now, all of this sounds really positive, but there are going to be challenges.
Oh, of course. I think one of the biggest ones will be finding that balance between security and efficiency.
Right. So you want the process to be streamlined and easy to use, but you also don't want to compromise security.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Another challenge will be keeping up with the constantly changing world.
Right. Things change so fast these days.
Politics, economics, technology, all of that can impact the visa system.
So you got to be flexible, adaptable.
Absolutely. And then there's the challenge of, making sure the system is fair and accessible for everyone.
So no matter where you're from, your financial situation, whatever, you have an equal chance.
Right. It's about removing barriers. So we've talked about a lot of potential positive changes, but we also know there are challenges. What does all this mean for, our listener who's thinking about studying in Australia?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about.
Okay, good.
We're moving towards a more digital, personalized, student-centric approach. There are challenges, sure, but there's also a commitment to making the system better.
So if Australia's calling your name, don't let the visa process scare you off.
Right. Do your research, plan ahead, stay informed, and don't give up.
Good advice.
With the right mindset, you can make it happen.
All right, so we've reached the end of our deep dive into Australian student visa delays. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two and you're feeling a little bit more prepared for your own adventure.
Absolutely.
We talked about the challenges, we brainstormed solutions, we looked to the future.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And remember, this isn't just about visas, it's about the future of international education. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to experience different cultures.
Couldn't say it better myself.
So thanks for joining us. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Bye for now.